Well, they do, but they don't. They've got a population out there that vote skin color now that you know they wonder which way it's going. I think, in my estimation, they are very. Now I'm reading. I'm trying to put in words a number of conversations that we've had, and what I'm sensing is they are so upset at Obama. They haven't outright come out and pushed for someone else yet. You may have noticed the Washington Post about 2 weeks ago. They came out. Now the Washington Post is about as liberal as you can get, and the Washington Post approximately 2 weeks ago came out with the first of the articles scathing. I mean, it cut Obama to part from one piece by piece and spit him out. I have never seen the Washington Post do this before of any president that the elite wanted in office. I believe that they are beginning to smear him little piece at a time. Many of the older elite are so disgusted with what this man has done and the fact that he oftentimes does things contrary to what they want. I think there's a very good possibility that if they have their way, they don't want him back in office.
I know there are a lot of people who would be thankful for Obama to be gone. I'm certainly one of them, though I'm not so sure that Romney is a desirable replacement. I could envision Romney doing what W. Bush did, which is consolidating power through both houses of Congress, assuming the Senate goes Republican, and essentially doing the same kind of stuff, marching through the world, making war, which of course is big money, and the military-industrial complex, all of that. Is war the globalist answer to the global economic depression, to all of the economics? Is war the answer as far as the globalists are concerned?
When the globalists wanted the price of crude oil to $150 a barrel, and they started the conflicts in the Middle East, first in Egypt, then Libya, and then Syria, they used war in order to do it. Now, you may not call this war. What's taking place in Syria right now, if it's not a war, then I don't know what it is. And what took place in Egypt when they ousted Mubarak, and what took place in Libya, and now what's taking place in Syria, put it any way you want to. You can call it a skirmish. You can call it another Iraq, anything you wish, but it all boils down to one thing: they're creating chaos that they want in order to get what they want.
Well, has it been your experience in speaking with these people that their preferred method of creating chaos is war? Because historically, war is how countries pull themselves out of depressions. War is big business on all sides because the banks loan to both sides. Is it your impression, having known these people for so long, that war is their preferred answer?
I would say so. Yes. Whenever they want to do something and they want to be able to cause the effect that they want, they use war to do it, yes.
In a couple of weeks, Germany's Supreme Court is scheduled to rule on whether it is constitutional for Germany to continue funding European Union bailouts and transferring power to the EU. If the court rules that Germany cannot do these things, then the end of the EU may be imminent. Can you offer us any insights on this important upcoming ruling?
Not necessarily concerning the ruling. I have not had any communications with my elite in relation to that. I do know that when Greece, for all practical purposes, declared bankruptcy, it did not bring the euro down, nor the European Union. And I have stated on your show numbers of times before that the elite will not allow the European Union to collapse until they have created the massive amount of control with the money situation. They want to create such debt. They want every nation. They want to create as much as they possibly can before they allow it to fall. I do not see the European Union's collapse as being imminent, but I need to give a warning right now about something that will relate back to that. I made the statement over the past, in fact, the entire past year. I have said that by the end of 2012, I was told that the dollar will be dead. I want you to very carefully understand the mindset and the lingo and the buzzwords of the elite in this. I did not say, and they did not say, that the dollar would be non-existent. They said it would be dead. That means that the purchasing power of the dollar is going to so drastically diminish. I know we're getting close to the end of the year, but you, I think, are about to see something very drastic to happen with the dollar. Now, this is only I just got back to my office a day or two ago, and this is only the second program I have ever given this on. You're one of the first people to ever hear it. I had dinner just the other night up in the northern part of the United States of America with an individual. I will say that what they said, you can depend on it to be credible. The sister of this individual works for Raytheon. Now, many of you know what Raytheon is. Raytheon produces most all the satellite systems for the United States of America. It is a very high security company. And this individual has security clearance by way of the United States government, is by way of Raytheon. They are not conservatives as you and I are, Brent. They are very liberal. They would think that you and I were out in left field someplace. But something happened to them only a few days ago that frightened them so much until they related it to me. They said that Raytheon just received a few days ago a communique from the federal government, and they said it frightened them so much that they couldn't keep quiet. And as a result, she told this as an actual happening. She said that she is the one who has the security clearance. She cannot even tell what she does with Raytheon. But she saw this communique from the federal government that was sent to Raytheon saying that Raytheon should make all preparations necessary for a shutdown financially of the United States government. Now, I know this sounds drastic, but keep in mind, Congress will not has not given a budget. Our president is blaming the Republicans for everything he can get his hands on. He is saying, you Republicans are what's keeping us from having a budget, what's keeping the country from going forward. And I'm gathering that Mr. Obama right now is getting so desperate because he realizes that he's not necessarily winning like he thought he was going to. It looks as though he may try to use a smear campaign and something drastic he may pull in relation to the monetary system of the United States. I'm not saying it's going to be a bank holiday, but there is something very drastic in the wind right now. Whenever Raytheon Corporation receives a message from the federal government saying, make all preparations in your company for the possibility of a financial shutdown in the very near future.
I would agree. That's definitely noteworthy for sure. The tendency is not to send messages like that if nothing's going to happen. So thank you. Appreciate that. We all do. Britain has threatened to invade the Ecuadorian embassy in order to recapture Julian Assange, who has been scheduled for extradition to Sweden even though he has not been accused of any crime. This situation threatens to escalate into a major international diplomatic crisis. Have the globalists weighed in on this issue, and does the outcome affect their plans one way or another?
The only thing that the globalists have relayed to me, my elitist friends as I like to call them, the only thing they've relayed to me recently is what's happening in the Middle East, with what's happening on the North Slope of Alaska with the Liberty rig, with what is taking place in the European Union, and the fact that until massive financial problems have been created in debt, that they won't allow it to fall. As far as other countries, I haven't asked them, and they haven't talked about them.
I think this would be an interesting one to ask, because if Britain does invade the Ecuadorian embassy, all over the world. British consulates could be subject to invasion. There's a possibility the Organization of American States could get together and every one of those states could break diplomatic ties with England. I mean, there's all kinds of potential for this, and it's certainly not just localized in England. I'd be very interested to know what they have to say. They have to be following this. They have to be. It's got too much impact in too many places in the world for them to ignore it. The Federal Reserve is reportedly preparing for another round of quantitative easing, which essentially means flooding the country with even more worthless currency. I know you've already said a few things about it. Is there anything more you can add to the agenda, the schedule of the possible collapse of the euro and then the U.S. dollar? You talked about the dollar a little bit there in this thing with Raytheon, but is there anything more that you can add into it, specifically with respect to the euro? And then, I know you've said in the past that when the euro collapses, we've got basically days before the dollar collapses.
QE3 is a very touchy subject. They should have long since have initiated it. They are scared to death to do it. The reason is because of a number of things. Many of you will remember that China just recently said they were going to allow their currency to float. And they said they would allow it to float from 0.5 to 1 in relation to the United States government. This was nothing but an outright threat. You had better not initiate QE3. Then, you'll remember when the Brazilian president, Dilma Rousseff, came and met with our president back in April. She said, don't you dare initiate QE3. She said, we don't have a Federal Reserve. We can't do with our currency what you're doing with yours. Now, long time ago, the Federal Reserve should have initiated QE3, but they can't do it because there are countries such as the BRICS group, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, which comprise 43% of the world's population and 18% of the world's GDP, and they've already said, we're phasing out the American dollar. Right now, the Federal Reserve is really having to walk a tightrope, because if they initiate QE3, they're going to bring down China. All China's got to do is say, we'll allow our currency in relation to the American dollar to go to 1. And do you realize that every product in Walmart and Target would double in price the next time that they place an order for it? So the world has basically threatened the Federal Reserve and the United States and said, don't you dare bring in QE3. And I think they're having to walk a tightrope right now as far as that's concerned. They may do it, but if they do, the American dollar will be toast. And, of course, they want that anyway by the end of 2012. We're really in between a rock and a hard place right now, because the elite have created such massive debt everywhere. And eventually they're going to allow the whole thing to collapse so they can bring in their new world order currency.
Yeah, but I wonder, eventually, I mean, it's almost like I get to a point where I want it to happen so that we could then take the necessary steps after it happens to rebuild. It's almost like if a crisis is going to happen, let it happen so we can deal with it rather than have it constantly looming right in front of us. Well, I will tell you how to know well within advance. I would say at least 2 to 3 months in advance, before the crisis takes place, before the financial crisis, before there's a collapse of the dollar, before there's a collapse of the euro, I now have been told, here's basically what happened. Keep in mind that these elitist friends that I made friends with years ago, now they're in their 70s and 80s, and I was probably the only person of my kind that they've ever met in their life. I literally lived with them in their dorms at Prudhoe Bay. I sat in their board meetings. Most of them never came in touch with a chaplain or a minister before because of the type of people they are. And I think more out of respect for the fact of what I did in giving 3 years to my life, they tell me some of these things. And they actually came out and said, Chaplain, do you want to prepare your family in advance
so that you can be like those back in the Depression of 1929 through 1933, those who knew in advance it was going to happen, prepared their households accordingly, and as a result did not stand in the soup lines in New York and Chicago and San Francisco. And they basically said to me, they said, Chaplain, we can tell you how to know. And there's one word, and I think I've given some of it on your program, so I won't go back in it in detail. It's the word derivatives. If you want to know 2 to 3 months in advance, at least, before the collapse takes place, and it's going to take place, and I think they know, but they haven't told me a date. But they have told me how to know the date. And they've said, Chaplain, if you'll watch this, they said, whenever there's a crack in the derivative market, you must, please, people, I plead with you, you must do a crash course on derivatives as quick as you can for the sake of your dinner table, your children, your wife, and your family. You've got to understand that you can tell when a crack comes in the derivative market because of currency wars, trade wars, and interest rates. The final one you'll know because even the national news will have it on. And whenever the Federal Reserve announces that interest rates begin to rise, it's too late. It's all over with. You want to know before then. And you can tell it by the derivative market. And that's the reason that I produced just a matter of days ago a CD, which we're giving to you, by the way, now as a gift along with our Secrets of the Elite DVD series. This CD you can put in your automobile recorder and listen to what the lead told me as to how I can know before it happens. And I'm telling you, they're secrets that they told me so that you can prepare weeks in advance, maybe months in advance, for what needs to be done because there positively is going to be a currency problem. And I believe what was told to Raytheon just recently indicates that it very well could be more imminent than what the average person thinks for, Brent.
Yeah, and we had Tom Filer on to explain derivatives. It's still very complicated, and there is no clear market. It's not like you can look up the stock market, you can look up the derivatives market, so it makes it more complex. But your admonition is absolutely well placed and well stated. The prices of gold and silver have remained somewhat stagnant for a long while until just the last few days. What do you expect from gold and silver prices for the rest of this year and into the first half of 2013?
Please, 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 please don't sell your gold and silver. I've been telling you for 3 years since Mr. Ken Fromm told me what that currency is, that it is going to $3,000 an ounce on gold. It is going to $75 an ounce on silver. You're going to see it begin to increase. As soon as they can get oil prices to $150 a barrel, you're going to see gold and silver go up also. It is still the currency of the elite, and it is the only way that you can protect your assets is to get out of paper of every kind, secure your assets, whether it be a garden in the backyard paid for, or a roof over your head paid for, or gold and silver that a dark night and a shovel can take care of. You positively must not give up on gold and silver. It is going to go up because it is the currency of the elite. And I stress that so much.
All right. I got to stop you, Lindsey. We're out of time. We're out of time against the hard clock. My guest has been Chaplain Lindsey Williams with his Global Elite Update. For more information on his DVD Secrets of the Elite and the accompanying free CD on derivatives, go to www.prophecyclub.com, PROPHECY, prophecyclub.com, or call 888-799-6111. Thanks, Lindsey. We'll see you next month.
God bless, Brent. Thank you.